And I wanted to start with you, Henry, because the paperwork is reportedly signed, and Thomas Frank is the new Tottenham Hotspur manager.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really happy about this. I think he's one of the most underrated managers in the league. I think he's a very good man manager, good tactician. He's worked with a low budget. You know, Brentford, some of the signings they've made that he's approved, like Mbeumo, for instance, we saw Flecken, lots of, let me reject that quickly, lots of decent signings. And I think we're doing a big change at the football club. Langer is expected to stay, but Paratici's coming back. When we had Paratici, we made some of our best signings, like Romero, Van der Ven, Porro, Udogi.
He was also a criminal, though.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's. I don't really care about that. I mean, allegedly, a criminal.
A football criminalism is slightly different.
Yeah,
it's all right then, isn't it?
It is killing one, so that's fine. But yeah, I think with him, Thomas Frank, I think a lot of Spurs fans I've seen on all over Twitter are against it, and I don't really understand why, because we've gone from a manager who granted won us a piece of silverware, which we haven't done in so long, but you can't have a season with 20 plus defeats. And Brentford were 18 points clear of us with a worse squad. So I look at, like, with less quality, less budget.
Fucking hell.
Well, yeah, it's
worse
not a worse squad. A worse squad then. But yeah.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the mother tongue of English there. Sorry.
And we've got, like, the stadium now. You know, the revenue stream has got coming. I think Thomas Frank's going to do well. I think the Brian Mbeumo or Mbeumo, however you want to pronounce it, saga's going to be very interesting. Paul O'Keefe said last night on the Last Word on Spurs that we are in the race. His preference is Man United. I do believe, though, if we put the same amount of money on the table, Thomas Frank can twist his arm. Like, we're obviously playing Champions League football. He'd be our best player by a country mile. He'd be our star player. Is he better than Bruno Fernandes? Is he better than Cunha? Probably not. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things to be positive about. I mean, people are already saying Beyonce is coming to Spurs. I mean, I don't care. Like, Thomas Frank with £150 million budget is better than Ange with £150 million budget. I think we can all agree on that. Sorry?
The managers don't make the signings. So it's irrelevant if you've got Thomas Frank and Fergie in charge. If you've got people making decisions upstairs at your football club, which is the way it wants to go. Because when Frank was at Brentford had one of the best recruitment setups in the country. It wasn't just Thomas Frank sat there one day and went, I've got this great lad here, from the French second division. He's a good developer, but he had a brilliant setup around them, identifying these players. If you're identifying the wrong players, which you have been doing for a number of years now, why would it change?
Because I think under Langer, who was Aston Villa's director of football, Ange approved and publicly come out and said he wanted Timo Werner. Now, fuck knows why he would approve that, because that is a car crash waiting to happen. He's looking at bringing majority of his coaching staff across. We're looking at their main technical director or their head scout, we're looking at bringing across. The club want to adopt a similar data strategy to what Brentford have got. And we've got a better squad than Brentford. Like, I won't hear anyone say that they've got a better team than us. We do. Let's just be other than Mbeumo and Wisa, right? And okay, now they've got Kelleher. Every other player we've got.
I'd take a couple of their midfielders before yours.
Who?
Damsgaard's a brilliant one.
Over Kulusevski or Maddison?
I'd take him over Maddison, yeah.
Tottenham have a better squad.
I'd have Norgard. I think Norgard's better than any other.
There's not much in it. But
you'd have him over Bergvall?
I'd have Norgard over Bergvall, yes.
But like, what's the debate here? Because he said that they have a better squad than Brentford, and like they do. So like, I feel like we're like nitpicking.
I think
like he didn't say that every single player is better. He just said that we have a better squad.
No, but I think it's quite tight.
So you think that Brentford could have won the Europa League?
Yeah.
Nah. Did Brentford beat Frankfurt?
I think you're being disingenuous.
Well, no. Let's put it like this: if Man United and Spurs can make the final, Brentford have every chance to make the final.
I don't think so.
There were 16 teams that finished above you. So 16 teams there, I can sit there and go, you know what? If Tottenham can do it, maybe they could.
But you're looking at like a one-off season, though. Like this is a one-off season where you got Tottenham sitting this
I've
low.
got to judge it on that. I've got to judge it on that metric. In this Europa League campaign where Tottenham won it, do I think if I grabbed Brentford and put them in that same position, do I think they could achieve similar things? I do. Because I think they had a better manager, and I think the squad is quite close.
That'll be you on hand on heart. Think the squad is close.
Yeah,
you're not
that's
trolling me.
Yes,
Being
100%.
dead serious.
All right, look. So, okay, fine. So then, Tom, if you were to do a combined 11, how many Brentford players get in starting 11?
What? So with the Brentford squad from last season?
Yeah,
Brentford
like
11.
we've just saw. Like, how many players get into this?
I just need to figure out because they play a back five where Tottenham
You need to
don't.
remember
So
who's in the Brentford squad first. That's the key bit.
no, I'm just trying to figure out where I can
But if you can't remember who's in the Brentford squad, then they don't have.
I know who's in the Brentford squad. I know who's in the Brentford squad. I give Tottenham both centre backs in Van der Ven and Romero. We've not
both fullbacks.
The fullbacks,
Both fullbacks.
Vicario
yeah,
as
they're
well.
gonna have to get both fullbacks to be fair because all of Brentford's have been injured all year. Goalie wise,
it's not better than their fullbacks. It's okay to say they're just
no.
not better.
I think when Aaron Hickey was fit, he was one of the best left backs.
So are you taking Flecken or Vicario?
It's like asking someone to nick my wife. Neither of them are very good. I'll go. Flecken had some really good games last year, but he had a couple of howlers in him. I'm gonna edge it to Vicario if.
Okay, so that's the back four and goalkeeper. Midfield?
Norgard, Damsgaard, and you can have.
You're not putting Bergvall in that. He's crazy.
No, it's a midfield three, isn't it?
Or James Madison, like or
Kulusevski. Madison over Damsgaard. Are you mad?
I am.
Tom, come on, be serious.
All right,
come on, bro. Come on, Madison over.
Yeah, look, we know Spurs have a better squad. That's why Andrew's been sacked because he's massively underachieved with what he had. Back to just because of interest of time, because we've only got like a couple of hours to do this show. What's not being discussed is what the bigger situation here that Henry just discussed. That he sounds very confident that they could take Mbeumo away from Manchester United.
Yeah,
that for me. 5 minutes ago should have been what you man were jumping on to talk about, but we're arguing over Madison and Damsgaard.
I don't think said it with any confidence though. His whole argument was, Thomas Frank might twist his arm. I don't think your argument can be
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I want you guys to discuss that. I think that's what the audience are slightly more interested in.
Yeah, I mean, look, like Thomas Frank was his manager, right? He's had a lot of success underneath him. He's now going to be at Tottenham, whether we like it or not. They are a traditional Big Six club. They have an amazing stadium. They got nice facilities. They just won the Europa League. They're now bringing in Thomas Frank. I think he could convince Mbeumo to join him. I don't think it's like a far-fetched thing. Obviously, Manchester United are a more attractive club. Manchester United are a much bigger club. But, I mean, I could definitely see Mbeumo thinking, well, Ruben Amorim, his future isn't certain, right? There's a possibility that he's gone by the time we get to Christmas. Whereas Thomas Frank, he's now going in, brand new manager at Tottenham. There's going to be a lot more time afforded. Yeah, I could definitely see it. I don't think it's a crazy thing.
I struggle too. With Mbeumo, it's clear that Champions League isn't the big thing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be going United. He would have went Newcastle. So saying that we have Champions League, that clearly isn't a big factor in his immediate decision. He's not sitting there going, I've got to pick a club that's got Champions League this year. So then it's a case of, right, is he going to, in my mind, it's either he's going to go to United for the allure of playing for United and the wealth of playing for United and this, that, and the other. And what it is to play United, or he's going to go to Tottenham because they've got his old manager. Now, I think he's done however many years under Thomas Frank. I think he just wants something different. I think that's the point in the career that he's at. If it comes down to Tottenham because Thomas Frank's there, or Manchester United who've done all the groundwork already, I think he's going to go United. If he was that asked about Champions League, he'd have a case. But the fact that I've seen him turn down all these Champions League clubs to go to United, it's clearly something about United that's attractive. And Tottenham don't have anything like that. But we got a manager coming in who used to work under. And I don't necessarily see how that's the key decision point. Because if he was that desperate to work under Thomas Frank, he would have stayed at Brentford.
But then why would he stay at Brentford to work on Thomas Frank? If a bigger club comes in, what I'm saying is I think that Tottenham and Manchester United right now are on the same playing field. Obviously, United historically are just more attractive. So it seems like that's the obvious answer. But I think there's more stability for him if he goes to Tottenham. Ruben Amorim could possibly get sacked. Now, what if the next manager doesn't rate you? Now you're at Manchester United, you're in limbo, like a lot of these talented players that they've signed over the years. Then next you know, we're like people are calling you a flop and all these different things. I don't think it's crazy to say that Thomas Frank could convince him to go over to Tottenham. I think that's kind of where I'm getting at.
Obviously, United are looking at Gyökeres. They've got Ahmad, they've got Cunha, they've got Bruno Fernandes, who can all play in those positions. I think there's a lot more competition at Man United. Whereas at Tottenham, let's just be brutally honest, he'd be our best forward by a country mile. He starts every game, like comfortably out. I know Brennan Johnson, in terms of silverware, has just won us the Europa League, but Mbeumo or Mbeumo, however you want to pronounce it, he's a much better footballer.
Does Kulusevski not play off the right dog?
No, he's going to play in midfield next season.
I was just going to say, if he goes to Spurs, there's level of stability, you'd say, if Thomas Frank goes. However, I feel like that stability is capped at a level. I don't see Spurs making any significant gains or competing for any significant trophies with Thomas Frank as their manager. So I think their max is like 5th with Thomas Frank. Whereas if he goes to United will try a lot harder to try and be the best team in England compared to what Spurs will try.
Dude, what do you make of it? Do you think there's a legitimate? I mean, look, I'll read out some of the story. I mean, Ben Jacobs has just said before we went live that Mbeumo has made his preference to join United clear, and all the suitors are aware. He said that Thomas Frank is expected to arrive at Tottenham. It could naturally change transfer targets, but suggestions of a Spurs hijack for Mbeumo are for now premature. United are solely focused on trying to get an agreement with Brentford. That kind of matches what Fabrizio and others have said, that almost they're suggesting that the player's made his mind up irrespective. Do you agree with what the journalists are saying, or do you feel that there really could be a new world come tomorrow morning?
I just think, for me, obviously, as Tom said, he doesn't really care about Champions League football. Clearly, the fact that he's keen on the Manchester United move. Thomas Frank is a factor in this, but I think that, if I'm honest, I think that's the only factor of him maybe going to Spurs, but I don't see it happening. I think Man United, it's just the name Manchester United on its own, I think has a big pull regardless where you finish in the league. So I don't see him swaying. I think he's set on Manchester United, and I just think he's probably sitting there going, other players are thinking the same, like they want to go Manchester United. Hopefully they can attract other players. Maybe the project's a bit more appealing. So that's just what I think as well.
Yeah, Sky Sports have literally just tweeted saying we've stepped up our interest for Semenyo from Bournemouth. Sky Sports last put out 5 minutes
for me,
ago.
I said it last night. That'd be a very good signing. I said it last night and I'll say it again. And Paul O'Keefe's the only anomaly here because he's very good at what he does, Paul O'Keefe. But there's none of us here on this panel believe that the talks with Thomas Frank have only started in the last 7 days, right? None of us believe Spurs had no idea about him. So the fact that they would have already have mentioned Thomas Frank to Mbeumo when negotiating with him weeks ago. They would have already. There's no way.
But you're assuming this.
No,
what
I'm
if Thomas Frank wasn't their first option?
I'm not assuming it, because the links to Thomas Frank have actually been very, very big for a while now, and Big Ange being sacked. He's been gone for 2 months. It was very well publicized around 2 months ago. I think it was Matt Law that said that he's seen as a dead man walking. He's going to go at the end of the season. The only reason it was prolonged for 3 weeks is because they won the trophy and they rightfully gave it some leeway and some space and time. But I don't believe that Spurs sacked Ange last week, Wednesday, and then let's start initial conversations with a new manager. Those conversations would have taken place. They would have definitely had those conversations with Mbeumo that they're looking to bring him in as a manager. He would have had an idea that his current manager at Brentford could also become the Spurs manager when he turned them down. There's absolutely no chance that was just, in my opinion, there's no way that he said no to Spurs, woke up yesterday morning gone, actually, I might change my mind now because my old boss might be going there.
But how do you know that Thomas Frank was their first choice? Like, you don't know who they would have won. Being a journalist has got to be the easiest job.
He was one of their choices. So again, my opinion is based on the credible stories that we've been reading for weeks. Thomas Frank has been one of the favourites, if not the favourite, and a talking point by Spurs fans based on news stories of him being linked to the club for at least 6 to 8 weeks now. I've seen those videos.
Yeah,
like
it's such like an obvious link.
So again, so for me, it's not an obvious link. It's not an obvious link though, because the journalist has just plucked it out of the air and gone, I think if Ange goes, they'll go for him. He's an obvious link to us as fans because Spurs have shown a genuine interest in him. They've been keeping tabs on him. They've had contact with intermediaries to talk about what his next move would be, what he's thinking. This is what clubs do.
But what I'm saying is, Terry, right? So again, like whenever you look at what these journalists say, it's always sources and this and that.
Yes.
The average fan could tell you Ange is struggling at Tottenham. They need a new manager. Thomas Frank is at Brentford, overperforming. It's a very easy link to make. It doesn't mean that.
Yes, but that's again, there is a difference between a journalist or a fan saying, I'd love us to go for Thomas Frank, he's doing brilliantly, to Spurs are actively monitoring that manager, scouting that manager, researching that manager, and have placed him upon a list of potential managers to replace the current guy. There's a very fundamental difference between those two things. It's been well documented. And I don't believe that they only decided last week to sack Big Ange. I think it's been something they decided many, many weeks ago. So the fact I believe they sacked him weeks ago, at least internally made the decision that he would go regardless of the Europa League final. I don't think they just started work on Thomas Frank last week. Therefore, when Mbeumo is being discussed, there's no way Spurs are sitting there talking to Mbeumo's representatives and not saying, by the way, we're going to be approaching Frank as well to be the new manager. There's no way that's not coming up in a conversation. If any of you are trying to recruit someone and you're in the process of trying to recruit someone they're close with, you're mentioning that as part of your pitch because you're trying to get them both in. It's actually,
do we not think the players also asked himself? He's also sat there in these meetings and went, who's actually going to be my manager next year?
Who's going to be the new manager? I mean, these are all parts of those conversations that let's be honest. And by the way, he's probably also asked Manchester United, is this new guy being backed? What's the plan? Who else are you trying to buy? What else is going on at the football club? I expect those questions in our direction too. I'm just not that pressed about this. That's why I'm not. So I said it last night, 95% sure he'll still come to United, and I'll roast and eat my hat if he doesn't. And all the media stories outside of the ones close to Tottenham have not changed their tune whatsoever, really. They've kept the door open with, there could be a change, but right now he's focused on this. So, yeah, listen, I still think United will get him. But on Thomas Frank,